여자 다심지 다시 냠지 다심지 고득이 심부지 다 팁체
So we already covered the section from Shantidevas' text during the generation of mind awakening mind, the section that deals with the exchanging and equalizing of self and others.
다지네 매서 다도 채와당사 수고 수서 솔로가 자도 쉽죠 디멘션에 아니 준주랑 그 두모 모임 되지래 야지 그게 로장단치 다들이야 아니 급대나 다 랑진진게 다 랑진진 당돌랜댕에 현진진을 전화权매봐 진짜게 다 다디 다 대당 다양 진진 연대 가장 진진기 견대 현진진기 연대 통하면도 다디 심전의 염도를 봐 다디 현실을 지기지도 지혜를 진유 현심전의 차트송 도스전에 아니 다 지금 토를 되네 차도 거면 냠을 되네 대심 거면 멤버를 되네 아니 가래다 그게 바다 통주지야 서로 나 되게 미고지 하지 대로 표부도 와
So from stanza 140 on, presents a certain contemplations and thought processes that is very unique to the method of training one's mind according to Shantidevas' text here. And the practices involve imagining one's own self, kind of old self, as the embodiment of self-cherishing that only cares about its own welfare and is totally oblivious to the welfare of the other sentient beings. So we set that old self aside on one side, and then we imagine another part of ourself, a self that is capable of seeing the benefits of thought cherishing others and the disadvantages of the thoughts that cherishes one's own welfare alone. And therefore, we set aside this self, which on the basis of seeing these differences, then emphasizes the welfare of other sentient beings and sides more with the other sentient beings for whose sake you are trying to seek their welfare. And then one kind of compares one's thoughts in relation to these and tries to go through kind of a thought experiments, as it were, where you imagine, kind of competing with this old self and imagining if it to be superior, then you try to cultivate a sense of envy and envy and jealousy. If it is deemed to be equal, then you cultivate a thought of competitiveness, and if it is deemed to be inferior, then you tend to look down upon it, kind of in a disparaging manner. So in this way, you try to train your mind, and it can be, very effective. So this is an approach that is very unique to Shantidevas' text.
Tadine the shu kaza sholoka gyada ngumchu ngumshi sholoka che daga no dagsha cha sen ya che tadine di gyada thamja to ko dal neba che yi gyu rang de chen de ba gyaba chang men dai gyu jang she so ne da du zbali ya pan jambo ko ne da rāng jīpa zīmbi jīnzīn dīgī, tū tātā pātū jīpa rāng jīpa rīdī, ngōdā yōngyā dī rāng dā pūngyā jīgī, dā yōngdā dīdī jāmbū gōne bā tāmā yīmarī. Jāmbū gōne dā zui bē sōchī.
So then in stanza 154, which is on page 109, we're talking about the English translation, where we read, "We should deprive him of happiness and always yoke him to our anguish." So then, so from the second part of that stanza onwards, Shantideva is presenting a series of, again, thought processes where you are applying a much more gentler approach to this old self, that is the embodiment of self-cherishing, pointing out to this old self that although what you truly wish for is your own welfare, but you have not been able to succeed in this. So in this way, applying a much more gentler approach, one is again addressing the self-cherishing attitude. So from this second part of that stanza, we read, "We all have been afflicted in the cycle of existence hundreds of times by him," talking about the self-cherishing attitude. "Countless eons have passed away while you sought your own benefit. With this great toil, you have gained only suffering," and so on. And then we move to stanza 168.
Denimata Zumugone, da Zubugone, da Ranjin Tabage, Hazore. Gunshia. Da, when the tether Damjan is simply tether, Michina, Kura never Gundembe, Kuni Saja Chow said, Kyoko, Karla, when you do the Shane. 내통 타교 강론으로 되겠죠. 끊심자 셔서 또 주무관에 따라 진실 받쳐주셔야 돼요.
So from stanza 168 where we read, "O mind, if you do not do this even when you are being told, then I shall subjugate you alone, for all faults dwell in you." So from this point onwards, now the text is employing a much more harsher approach and reprimanding the self-cherishing embodiment, the embodiment of the self-cherishing thought, the self, and saying that if you are not going to heed to what I have instructed to advise you, then I'm going to do such and such. So we read, for example, in the text, "Where will you go? I can see you, and I shall annihilate all your vanities. That was another earlier time when I was ruined by you. Now give up this hope. Still I have my own self-interest. Unconcerned as you are with much distress, I have sold you to others." So in this manner, the text then presents a series of thoughts where you are employing a much more harsher approach against the embodiment of self-cherishment.
다시 수고되지도가 자도 든주 든이 대저 교지 저듯이 호진비 요린 독 단위 큰놈 전체의 교지랑도 선부성 대제 다음에 간다는 랑라다기 갈미죠 대제 다음에 손되는 상다 다도 손 차스 다 디멘전이야 룰 착의 님이 야 직담용이 말이야.
So then we read in stanza 171 and 72 the following. Stanza 172 and 73 the following. Handing me over in that way many times, you have tormented me for a long time, and remembering those grudges, I shall destroy you, talking about the self-cherishment, the servant of your own self-interest. If you are pleased with yourself, you should take no pleasure in yourself. If you need protection, it is inappropriate to protect yourself. And then, so the translation is slightly different. So here it reads, if you wish your own pleasure, so this is in the annotation 325, which is closer to the Tibetan text. If you wish for your own pleasure, you should not take pleasure in yourself. If you wish to protect yourself, you should always protect others. And then from stanza 174 onwards, then Shantidevas is presenting once again a series of thought processes aimed at dealing specifically with clinging and attachment to one's body. So we move then to 185.
소수 삼는 날 얘들 다 약속이 완성은 제대로. 또 그들 들어. 계속 봐. 샤샤. 밀대비네. 먼저 통주 전문이 밑나 통주 주주제가 디디 상월로 랑도 되버다. 동해면도 시다래. 상월 매주시고 계속 누가 짜시면서 다시 누가 다스게 누가. 자, 진짜 인도산 딱 가를 내버렸으나 나도 상월로 대원도 동해면도 시다래 이네 아주 집에 잡아. 랑 집은 집에 상황도 다네. 그도 들려 못 좋다. 진짜 이번 인도산에 단에 캐베 제수 닉데스 단에 다게 캐베 제수 닉데스 캐바 저주 삼바 탑식이다 냠링이 내 등에 냠링이 내 냠신나네 대다게 제수 장대 바유 담는 전세네 니도 먹고 넣어봤자 개세 투지처럼 따랐어 개세 투지처럼 루루 yap사로 써봐 다 지금 오늘 전에 파고기 오늘 지금 계셔 당봐 진짜로보다 제일 영향이 투근 남주 현대의 학습 태도로 되는 요마다 시행하시도 자 진짜지 타네 투 라나 소수이네 투 여면 투 띵네 침등이지 다 여자면 세버 자 진짜 이번 인도산에 계셔 투지처럼다 리퀘스트는 수사돼 인제 차버만 배는 단이 다하게 동네 남탈 친 랑카를 도 샤샤베 동네 줘야 믿어와 동네 사야 믿어와 자 진짜 인도산에 대외 집어 세베신 로벨람네 심랜데 양다 밀로 따버려 다게 냐버 샤버 차 유지하면서 좋다.
So we read from stanza 185, which reads in the following. So enough of childish conduct. And this is very true. If we examine ourselves, we all know that deep down, each of us have always endeavored to seek the fulfillment of our basic aspiration to be happy and to overcome suffering. And it is on the basis of this motivation we live our entire life, and each of us, all 6 billion human beings on this planet, each of us in our own way is trying all our best to try to fulfill this aspiration. But up until now, if we look around, there isn't anyone that we can really truly emulate as having succeeded in this really aspiration. And we can look at ourselves what the fate of our current situation is, and where we have gotten as a result of pursuing endlessly the same kind of same old way of trying to fulfill this basic aspiration. Therefore, Shantideva writes, recalling the teaching on heedfulness and warding off drowsiness and lethargy, I shall follow the wise. So wise here refers to great masters of the past, such as Nagarjuna and so on, who have presented a different way of proceeding in trying to fulfill this basic aspiration to attain happiness. And the way in which these great masters have done is employing or applying both the faculty of intelligence and wisdom on the one hand, and a truly altruistic intention, a compassionate altruistic intention on the other. And in this way, they have pursued the welfare of other sentient beings, so that even on the personal level, and these masters can feel a tremendous sense of satisfaction and sense of fulfillment, because, and at least they can feel that there is no need for remorse or regret, because they have done all they can. So, and these are the way of the wise. And so Shantideva is suggesting that, I shall follow the way of the wise. And then we read in stanza 186, which is actually in the footnote, 329, where Shantideva writes, like the compassionate children of the conquerors, I shall endure the rigors of righteousness. If I do not constantly strive day and night, when will my suffering ever come to an end? And this is very true, because the point Shantideva is making is that if we are serious about bringing suffering to an end, we need to apply effort and do something about it. Suffering cannot just come to an end, by itself. And then he writes, therefore, so this is stanza 187, therefore, withdrawing the mind from evil ways, I shall always concentrate it on its own meditative object to eliminate obscurations. So with that, the reading of the 8th chapter is complete.
So this chapter is most important part of the Shantideva's book, very important. So as a daily practice, at the beginning, I think read the first chapter about the benefit out of altruism. Then, perhaps, I think, the 6th chapter and 8th chapter, read and contemplate, and some feeling develop. Then the 2nd chapter, the 8 limbs, as we done this morning. And then Chinchusimbe Tabalayata. Yan Tabalang Benaya, Membesim Kia, Susuta, Chotan Chana, and outside.
So as we did this morning, then I'll move on to the chapter 2 and 3, where we had the practice of the 7 limbs. And then on the basis of that, if we generate the awakening mind and recite those sections that deals with taking the Bodhisattva vows. So if you approach Shantideva's text in this order, this manner, it would be very beneficial.
Yeah.
So now we will read from Kamalashilas' text.
대내 신의 중에 항동 공부를 쳐야 돼. 니 손.
So we read from page 122 of the English text, the translation, where the bold text is the root text reads, after realizing tranquil abiding, meditate on special insight, thinking as follows.
다 항동 검수 데이터 띵다. 간다데 다 항동 검야 디 이거를 쉬워해 한다. 주사는다. 야, 생각을 잘못 썼다. 저는 가다이니 항동 검야 좀 달려야 돼. 신의 주야지도 숨겨야 돼. 먼저 대신에 주야 거든지 무시 주야라고 지 감공에 심 주야 된다는 신의 주야 말이 아주 신의 주야디 지들 대별 상도 돼야 된다래 지들 대별 상도 쓰다디 지도도 상도래 지도도 상도 용알라 냐라 미고 지도도 시거래 지도 미고 지도 시에 관해 아니 제도의 장배 주시장 되었기는 아니 지도는 상도 하고 이 말이 다들 이미 전에 지도 때는 폭풍이야리 대단하 대코나 지도부시나
So here we are cultivating a special insight in the context of supramundane meditation, supramundane level of insight meditation. So we are not cultivating special insight as a means of acquiring mundane powers such as clairvoyance or some other superior mental power, but rather we are cultivating special insight so that one will be able to penetrate into the actual nature of things. So it is a special insight directed to or focused on the way things actually are. So in order to do that, first of all, one needs to establish the object of our meditation. Here, the object would be emptiness, the ultimate nature of reality. So therefore, as Shantideva points out in his Guide to the Bodhisattvas Way of Life, one needs to cultivate a special insight, and for this one needs to have an understanding of what that suchness is, ultimate nature of reality is. So in the text we read in 125, we read of the English text, what is suchness like? It is the nature of all phenomena, and so on.
강团담는 거부터 저 가서도 저기 단위 좀 동바 니제. 제 실제 바로도 심배 동을 뉴디. 신진은 뭐인데 공적을 놓도 장나.
So here
대답에는 신내는데 실로 공부를 차오. 다 다데 지다와리야. 다 다음에 발래 가사가 다음에 받아. 저기 다음에 왔으니. 너는 다음에 니셰. 다 그수야 이렇게 좋아. 다 우모버는 낭시 타녀도 랑세 시간의 미식이 니에베 있잖아요. 디파 세브차야 같은 달이야. 아니 낭배 좀더 디디 두분일 체니 런시 예버마에 좀 더지. 런시 매마마에 좀 더지. 니체. 다디 니체체. 다 안데 런시 예버마에 낭배 좀 더지. 가사 다음에 슬러드 가사 라지 되게 자유도 다음에 뒤숭겨야 돼. 최지 다음에 소르자네 선사베이는 송진이 동시 다음에 런지베이는 아니 최터제 단동 기타 다음에 뒤숭겨야 돼. 공소그 다도메 봐. 다 쳐다도 못 줘. 쇼래. 뒤숭겨야 돼. 다 런신 매벌마 되게 아니 가사가 다음에 가사 라디오에서 자유도 다음에 뒤에 시기할 때 다음에 락발을 했어. 가사 다음에 가서 우리 그게 다 뭐마다 쉐베이나 그 추이 다음에다 간다 그게 각체 동수 찍버려 했어. 가사를 시동한데 가사 다음에 풍소를 시동한데 풍소 추이 다음에 있는 시전에 가사를 시동한데 가사 다음에 전에 다음에 이제 최생이 개발마도 하다 동수 개발 매도 소래. 다디 차버 직통 거야. 안다 금디 까말실 yapsayni rashi yebamaya khungre umabare ine rashi yebamaya khungimbare 대나야 낭세기 송진이도 그때 권한이 시행이 치든 미싱이 지다 치든 시행이 지 니여래 이 치든 미싱이 되버래
So when we speak about suchness, here Kamalashila writes that it is the nature of all phenomena that ultimately they are empty of self of persons and self of phenomena. This is realized through the perfection of wisdom and not otherwise. And then he cites from Samdhinirmochana Sutra, and then he concludes by writing, therefore, meditate on wisdom while engaging in tranquil abiding. So here Kamalashila explains the understanding of suchness in terms of the two selflessnesses, selflessness of person and selflessness of phenomena. So generally, within the Buddhist traditions, there are different understanding of what constitutes the true understanding of selflessness of person and selflessness of phenomena. And so within the Buddhist tradition, Buddhist philosophical schools, broadly one can divide the schools into two camps. On the one camp that accepts some notion of intrinsic reality and on the conventional level, and then another camp that rejects notion of intrinsic reality or intrinsic existence, even on the conventional level. So we can broadly divide the Buddhist schools into two camps. And so the first camp, for them, the understanding of selflessness of person or no self or person is defined in terms of the absence of a self-sufficient, substantially real self-sufficient person, and whereas they define selflessness of phenomena as being quite different. For example, for the mind-only school, selflessness of phenomena would be defined in terms of the absence of duality of subject and object, whereas the Madhyamaka Svatrantika, the autonomous syllogism school, they define selflessness of phenomena in terms of the emptiness of true existence of things. However, the second camp among the Buddhist schools, those that reject notion of intrinsic existence, even on the conventional level, for them, insofar as what is being negated is concerned and the subtlety of what is being negated, there is no difference between selflessness of person and the selflessness of phenomena. Just as the emptiness of inherent existence of person is the selflessness of person, emptiness of inherent existence of phenomena, or the aggregates, is the emptiness of selflessness of phenomena. So there are these different understanding of the teaching on no self. And Kamalashila, the author of this text, together with his own master, belongs to that group, although they are Madhyamaka, middle way school masters, but they also belong to the camp that accepts notion of intrinsic existence, at least on the conventional level. And within that, again, there are two subdivisions. One accepts some degree of reality to the external material world, while others, such as Kamalashila and his master and his own teacher, rejects the notion of external material reality and kind of side more with the standpoint of the mind-only school. So there are these differences in their understanding of what constitutes the true selflessnesses.
Yeah. Yes. I think session of question, again I forget.
This is a more practical question. Can you recommend a text to use for the Chenresik Avalokiteshvara sadhana practice?
또 차가 이집이 때네 야오를 때 맞네. 그냥 저기 짬도 심지 야오 삼시다. 새끼 이집이 거야 그냥 말다. 아니 짬도 심지 야오 삼단사를 쇼데. 애네 동니시고. 봐. 다 짬도 모두 다는 그냥 심지 야오 삼단 대쇼데 동니시고. 그래서 저도 다음에를 삼단 되니 애네 제네시스 넘버 리아 샤 엔다 또 제주 하초 고면 생기 동거 이거 저수 라스니 소는 이제니 동배사 제니 되는다 지금 저게 나 좋아야 되는데 여들 저 뭐지 이 뭐지 다 인부로 거다 나래 동니도 뭐 소는 제네시스 하고 고 다 될 내숨을 어머 아 홍숭 sab시 엔데네다 엔데는 내가 장하잖아 뭔잖아 역시들이 이 쇼데 뭐지
There are actually many different versions of the sadhana practice of various length. So, and in fact, strictly speaking, the recitation of these, chanting of these sadhanas are not that critical. What is more critical is the actual meditation. So maybe one thing that would be more effective or beneficial would be to do the practice in the following manner. First, take refuge in the three jewels, and then after that, generate the awakening mind, and on the basis of that, then one meditate upon emptiness of one's own self, and then imagine that understanding, that mind understanding emptiness takes the form of Avalokiteshvara, and then visualize the 3 points of your body, your heart, your throat, and your crown being marked by the 3 syllables Hum, Ah, and Om. And then based on that, visualization, then you can start doing the mantra recitation of the 6th syllable Om Mani Padme Hum. And then at the end, you can do a dedication, a short dedication. So that actually may be effective. So it is not necessary to do any verbal chantings of the words, of the lines. In fact, to do this kind of sadhana mentally it's tougher, because when you try to do the actual meditation, you will recognize that it is more difficult. Whereas if you have something to chant, it's easier, because while you are chanting, your mind can still wander around. Please, Your Holiness, please comment on the issue of allowing people to be ordained if they are devoted practitioners but must continue to work at a job to take care of their families, children, parents, or themselves. This is common in the West, especially for nuns, because there is no supportive structure or community for them.
Yes. Yeah, this is one problem. In India, there are some nunneries, and also now one nunnery, especially for Westerner, although small. But now there's basis there, so we must improve using these, because we can increase.
No.
Then I remember in France, southern France, one nunnery, I think there, one time, Yorba, in southern France, one nunnery.
Australia, Australia,
yes.
France,
So there are some institutions mainly for monk and also some nuns. But that I think one thing. And then the other language has in Kasa.
간다 내가 최고냐 다 초회도 내가 최고냐들이 와서 근데 주야 랍중기 정말 렌치 체베나 더 좀어서 간다 지금나서
특이해야 돼. 야.
북을 따고 있는다.
다. I think they become now become Buddhist or Buddhist monks or nuns. Still must be part of the society and part of the productive society. For some work, I think interest for both oneself as well as the society. So this is no problem. Then dress, I think, maybe some problem. So usually it's better not hurriedly take vow. Remain as a normal person and practice Buddha Dharma seriously and no hurry to take these vows, and especially celibacy, like that. Then gradually, eventually getting older, then anyway you have to resign from worldly life. Then perhaps, you see, then become a nun or monk, some clean one, and that's good. Meanwhile, from the young age, study, make sort of sufficient sort of knowledge for practice. I think the other day I mentioned, then when you become, because of the age at the time of retirement, then you have sort of full knowledge. And with that knowledge, then more time, more hours spent on meditation or like that. I think that's more realistic.
Your Holiness, a few days ago, you said that studying Tibetan might not be a good use of one's time.
그래서
is it not also true that perhaps studying Tibetan is helpful towards preserving the language and so helping to preserve the Tibetan culture? I have also heard that though there are many good English translations of Tibetan texts, those translated only represent a very small percentage of the Tibetan text still untranslated. Even if one never does translation work, it seems that one's Dharma study might deepen by the study of these texts in Tibetan or in Sanskrit.
If this questioner is a Tibetan, then you must learn Tibetan, naturally. If this questioner not Tibetan, not mother tongue, then I thought, and meantime, the other day you mentioned you also having some working job. So then I thought, in that case, the begin study Tibetan, I feel waste of time. But other hand is someone, of course, as I mentioned earlier, is a Tibetan, then must learn Tibetan, must learn the Tibetan writing. Very, very important. Then, for study the Nalanda tradition thoroughly, a profound way, then Tibetan language is the best language to get the exact, precise meaning of these sort of thoughts, of this teaching. So I think today's world, now 21st century, Sanskrit there, but that more or less language for few scholars. So the only Tibetan, the Chinese also there, I think sufficient sort of vocabulary, In fact, you see, before Tibetan translation started, Chinese translation already started. So much earlier, a few centuries earlier. A lot of books there. But I think the precise meaning, according to some Western scholar, Western translator, the Tibetan translation is the best translation. So, like that. So, in case there is possibility to study Tibetan without because of much complication, then yes, start to study Tibetan. But in any case, one Westerner speak Tibetan, the accent, in any case, some different. Always. Yeah.
Do you think there is a direct connection between our thought and the environment?
How so?
Our thought.
Our thought.
And the environment.
Yes, generally yes. And the culture background. But then, one individual, through practice, through learning, develops certain
quality,
certain attitude, and it becomes something profound. Then environment, not much effect.
Environment,
ecology. I don't know what meaning.
Of course, generally, that there is a close connection between human beings and environment is very obvious because we rely entirely on the breathing and then the oxygen comes from the environment.
Oh, what do you mean?
Thought. No, me samtang.
Me samtang. Oh yes, I think different location, different environment. I think the people in Arab, most of the traditional desert, they have a certain way of thinking, and a certain way of life. Then those people in Amazon area, very thick forest, and a lot of rain. So they have their own lifestyle. And Tibetan also, those Tibetan who come from lower land, farming, their lifestyle different than those Tibetan who are in very high altitude, only few yaks. This is no crops, no farms. No farms. Lifestyle is different. So environment makes different way of life. Through that way, some way, little different, I think, a mental way of thinking. That's, I think, very little. Very superficial. I don't know.
Your Holiness, if there is a time, if one suffers from depression and is an anti-depression medication, can one meditate with clarity? Now, research on LSD resulted in that 67% of terminally ill people felt no fear of death after their use of this drug. Also, recent research showed participants in a controlled setting felt positive results at least 5 years later. So my question is, can certain drugs help the practice of Bodhisattva?
I don't know, that's up to experts, I don't know. Further research, that's best. I don't know. If I have enough time, then I can join with those researchers for some research.
Your Holiness, thank you for your teaching and presence here. With the opportunity for political change ahead in the United States, please consider asking our new president for our country's help for the reinstatement of a free Tibet and freedom of all Tibetan lands and people. Many of us want to help and ask our leaders for their help for Tibet. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your concern. And I always feel Tibet issue is moral issue and just issue. And particularly our way of approach, the solution is mutual benefit. Benefit us, benefit People's Republic of China as a whole. Our approach is one side victory, one side lose. No. Both sides victory. So therefore, those sensible Chinese, many of them supporting our way of approach. So just issue. And also our issue is very much related with Buddha Dharma. Actually, I think President Wu Jintao sort of the slogan, promotion of harmonious society. The Tibetan Buddhist culture, I think great potential to bring harmonious society. So therefore, you see the Tibetan struggle is something moral issue, like that. And then environment also involved. So all our supporters, I do not consider as a pro-Tibetan, but rather pro-justice. So I appreciate. Then this country, a democratic country, every citizen can create some voice. And through your own representatives in the two houses. So you can make some contribution, isn't it? So please take a more active role. Thank you.
This is a personal question. I'm an American who does not have health insurance.
Okay.
Health insurance mass.
Insurance mass.
Health insurance mass. This means that if anything serious happens to my health, I cannot afford to pay for the treatment. This morning, as I bathed, I found a lump in my breast. Lump, doctor. My husband does not practice or believe in any religion. My mother died of cancer 3 years ago, and his uncle died of cancer last year. Because of this, my husband is going to be very worried and afraid if I tell him about my lump. Should I keep this morning's development a secret to help delay his suffering? Help delay the suffering I will cause when he finds out.
Of course, I very much appreciate and very touched. You see, you ask such questions. But answer also difficult. I think you yourself judge whether you should mention to your husband or not. You have to judge. I don't know. Influence your marriage. Some NGOs say
maybe you could have access to some non-governmental organization that could help defray the costs.
Or maybe if cost very high, then difficult. But if cost is something manageable, then I will ask Kishila, please, please do something. And also I can make some donation. No? So it is rather sad. It is very sad. Difficult. I think you should think, on this planet, among the 6 billion human beings, many, many people facing this kind of suffering, this kind of problems, and in some cases, I think worst. So remember this, and then you take maximum care yourself, and meantime, take easy way, mentally. Okay. Now, Tatinda. Tala, Nanjabe, didn't number chapter chatis, Kansani Pumbu to come to easily, Queen of Miming souls. Kansani Pumbulo so Moni Yamain days, Pumbulo Soba Tedani, Medapata to Mengo in Bechida Kansani Tawata, Jibu in Be. Shanda get with Ocean. Chendasunde Digi, Kansa said the Pumbula, Dene, to Devon, Dene Yavachita, the Savary. A Pumbuli tension to Yamari. That the name is Zane, the Pumbule tension, Tade to Yamava. Diana, Pumbu Semne, the Kazat said the Sunday, Kazat was Jibu. Right, Pumbu to me, she, without she. In this any Pumbus and Shashing Mare is a Sungiota. That is she ships have gone to Zane, Kansa, Chamber, Chokata Kain there, Tanging Mene, Druvachi. The Chinjella, the she send Cheta de Mo in Yuji, Nihu Yare. That the name is Zane, Nangveshung, Rashi Yavama, Nane. Now, Kansa said the Chenshi is a Tartu, Yinam Shikan Soundang, Sheberan Soundang. Down that day, Kanda Kansa said the Pumul Dane to the Indusane. Now, Dexirao, Yoshimar is Aro. Pumbul Shembeta, Yumaris. That in the Kansa, I get to be said the Pumbul want to get Jota was a lot of sea. Pumbul part never made a lot of sherry or the Dimari, Pumbul turned it to the mother, Pumbul never made around your Maris. That's a Sugari.
So we resume our reading from Kamalashilas' text. And this is on page 128, where the text reads, Yogis should analyze in the following manner. A person is not observed as separate from the mental and physical aggregates, the elements, and the sense powers, nor is the person of the nature of the aggregates and so forth. And because the aggregates and so forth have the entity of being many and impermanent. So here, Kamalashilas is explaining that when we try to observe our sense of selfhood, we often tend to kind of postulate some kind of a self that is unitary somehow independent of the mind and body complex, and also something that is independent. And that kind of self, as Kamalashilas is pointing out, does not exist, because the person, if we examine the nature of the person, one cannot find a person that is independent of the mind-body complex, physical and mental aggregates. And similarly, in our own sense of self, often we have the notion of self being somehow not dependent upon the physical and the mental constituents, but somehow a kind of an owner and a kind of a owner or a master of the physical and the mental elements, and somehow, but not dependent on it, but somehow ruling it from an outside. So again, Kamalashilas is pointing out that kind of self or person does not exist. And furthermore, we can kind of extrapolate from this the understanding that if person is findable within the basis upon which the designation, the label is designated, then the person should be, when searched for the identity of the person, it should be findable from amongst the bases, such as the physical and the mental aggregates. Therefore, within the Buddhist tradition, those schools that accept the notion of intrinsic existence on the conventional level would identify, in the final analysis, either the stream of consciousness or some aspect of the consciousness to be the identity, true identity of the person.
Now I want to tell that questioner, the women who have some problem. Here, this time, with me, one Tibetan physician also here. So, I think no harm to see a Tibetan physician. Some cases with the Tibetan medicine is helpful. Now in India, also in Europe, and also here also, in some cases, there's some serious illness. They say the Tibetan medicine seems is working, some cases. And therefore, there's no harm. So if you want to see Tibetan physician, then please contact our center, Deer Park Center.
Deer Park Center.
Within next, within next few days, our physician available here. So that I want to inform you. That chöla dame bayan, only. That tini tam shendu jodo murome kansa ngobusde da rangde nemo be tebe soro ya de jodo me da sa dame rang se tama chibse. Yanchi jodo me da sa ji sunne jar. Da de ba 풍부도 직 다될 수도 아니 풍부 수도 야 말봐. 또 센심이나 jodo me da sa de 샤서 가고 그래. 어디 숨겨야 다 디슈도 추이다면 걸 숨고도 추이다면 시작이 아니 스다디 최대 강사스 니체 다디 니체야디 제 녀얼레보다 녀얼레바 니체 너는 롱 접어보다 롱 짜자 니체 저는 다롱 접어보 다음에 삼직다 저는 롱 짜제 풍속 최 디디 다유면 삼시다니 지르자네 다유나네 샹도시 다신샤는 진짜 당소는 시 다도 집어되기 나이 쳐 나이니 나이 미드쳐 나이 자오신都是要切过的等차단 게임도 와 자 근데 이르잖아요 근데 차단 게야 될래야 다도 준비 로디 숙충 당투나 대체 변한 거 아주 지다 미 변한 지단으로 차셔이네 근데 기 준준한 차샤네 기 지금 변 기술 차샤나 그 시부지 그 왕시부 중에 기디 시다 가서로 자리 좀 되지 어디도 와 지지메이네 그또 시두로 지게메이네 그 시다스님들 참고시 되기도 와 상관은 미래 다도 와现在시부지 배 랑시 사부 중에 수시대 고모 좀 제. 된저기 때문에 나도 조금 지고 차고도 와. 군도 튜브진 땡에 주는 꼭군도 자오셔지 고기부터 와. 봐. 쉬게 좀 마십시오. 지단 셔이네. 자, 드리면 이르잖아요. 다도 좀 보세요. 시부지 차오셔인도 그 여러 먹어야지 뒤머리. 자, 다 될어야 다음에 써야 돼. 강사 다음에 써야 돼. 곰체. 다 써야 돼. 시부지 배 가서 그게 진짜 셔서 배 시부지 배 숙청부터 숙청심이나 그거 더 될었대বে 차당을 중도다지 연구야. 다 이내야 롱제저 풍속 쉬어가나 다음에 그 남샤게 매나 풍속 쉬어디 양고 장점으로 숙심부지 나버디 세디그로. 그래서 다 다음에 가사가 다음에 그 타라 롱제저 쉬어디 뒤에 다도 미주직 상무지 단위나 다 친 니자로 롱점보다 롱제저 니가로 야 지 아택 즈먹고 숙충도돼야지. 대니는 미베 아택 즈먹 숙충도돼야지. 거다 영향시도가. 그래서 리드자는 가사를 주다면 니어야 돼. 내가 전부도 와. 다와도确实너도 풍부의 기준이나 함조제 또 다른 풍부의 기준으로서 되는 다 대한 담반의 심지 남발 그는 매제신. 다와 되기 제가 뒤처럼도 싫어. 뒤처럼은 이제 차세지 원인 수로 다른 원인 해봐서도 매제로 전. 지도 당도자는 이해도 봐.实战에다 당도자는 이해하면 상례 명상의 시도 금들 샤도와 말해. 금들 샤모트도 그돌이야. 얘나 된중원의 영어래. 된중원의 영어 당도자는 이해고래. 치료는 거고 당도자는 이규민도가 근데 이제는 치료는 거고 야 말했어. 워낙 근데 수조로 쏘고 누가 하sl로는 뒤에 런진 셰베 때문에 박자 세네 나한테 버리지. 근데 이제는 숨어든 집은 이부터 아니年龄 셰베 찍래 샤더지.年龄 주 셰베 찍래야다 또 박자야 샤더지. 자, 근데 이제는 군이들 현실명이 있잖아요. 좀버디야나 그 지야게 나버디 여행에 샤더네. 어디 셔요. 지났어. 자, 이제는 미긴샤 그게 가서 그게人生 시바 계시기 유나라人生 시바 많이 보는다 미기사다 뒤 배지 매듭지 어떤 내지다네 다 간다 치료시도 상월로 난 짐베 땅이 짐베 자스도 되네 자지고레스 짐베 땅이 좋아했어 뜻송이야 다들 치료가는 송진이 기동 송진 자타대로 동 사도 송버리 뜻음서부터 다 투모이 버리.
So in the text we read on page 128, Kamalashilas says that others have imputed the person as permanent and single. The person as a phenomenon cannot exist except as one or many because there is no other way of existing. Here Kamalashilas is also referring to another possible metaphysical conception of the person as being somehow indeterminate and inexpressible nature. Somehow it's neither one nor separate from the aggregates, it's neither permanent nor impermanent, and believing some kind of inexpressible self, that too is being negated here. And then the text goes on to explain the meaning of the selflessness of phenomena. So we read on page 129, meditation on the selflessness of phenomena should also be done in the following manner. Phenomena, in short, are included under the 5 aggregates, the 12 sources of perception, and 18 elements, and so on. So the significance of explaining selflessness in terms of selflessness of person and the selflessness of phenomena is to really negate grasping at both the agent, the subject of the experience, and also its field of experience, its objects of experience. So, so the more one is able to reduce the intensity of grasping at some kind of notion of an independent self, the greater the impact will be felt that will lessen the intensity of one's affliction, such as attachment and aversion that is rooted in this grasping at self. And this is something that we can even know from our own personal experience, because we know the stronger you're grasping at something, the stronger your attachment for that would be. So, for example, because of this, we, on the basis of discriminating between friends and foes, enemies, then on that basis we grasp at these distinction, and then we react to these categories in the manner of strong attachment and clinging, or strong aversion or hostility. So, and this is a very natural part of our responses. For example, Dharmakirti points out in his Pramanavartika exposition of the valid cognition, where he says that so when there is the notion of selfhood, then the notion of other arises, and on the basis of division between self and others, then afflictions such as attachment and aversion arises. So, and we can see this to some extent even in the animals. For example, if you happen to have dogs, you know that those dogs that are very aggressive, that are very clingy, they don't get along with other dogs. Whereas if the dog has a much gentler temperament, kind of easygoing, then we can see that this dog can get along with many other dogs and become friends. The same is true also of human beings. Those human beings who tend to be very self-centered, self-righteous, then it's difficult for these individuals to make easy friends with others, and also these individuals find it very difficult to get along with other fellow human beings. On the other hand, if you have an individual who is much more gentle, settled, and calm, and not too self-centered, then these individuals make easy friends, they can get along with others. So we can see that the stronger one's grasping at a notion of a kind of egoistic self, the greater the tendency to emotionally react whatever happens to that individual. So therefore, by kind of loosening the grip on the notion of self, one is able to at least reduce the kind of intensity of the emotional reactions, whether it takes the form of attachment or aversion. So we can see that how this works. However, if your kind of approach is confined only to dealing with the grasping at self, and you leave the field of experience of that self untouched, then again you can have grasping onto these objects, the fields of experiences. So we tend, for example, to grasp at things as mine and so on. So and therefore, alongside reducing the intensity of grasping at self, one also needs to reduce the intensity of grasping at the object of that experience, objects of experience of that self. Therefore, the necessity for cultivating the wisdom of selflessness of phenomena. And phenomena here refers to the field of experience of that person. So in other words, this is therefore the significance of explaining the two selflessness, no self of person and no self of phenomena. And then in explaining the no self of phenomena, Kamalashilas writes that the physical aspects of the aggregate sources of perceptions and elements are, in the ultimate sense, nothing other than aspects of the mind. So in this particular sentence, Kamalashilas is presenting his kind of more mind-only school leaning perspective, which rejects the reality of the external material world. And since Kamalashilas does not uphold the Madhyamaka standpoint that rejects the notion of intrinsic existence even on the conventional level, so when something like external material things cannot be found when critically searched for their essence, then instead of saying that the material phenomena exist only on the nominal level, Kamalashilas concludes that the material phenomena does not actually exist. And then the question is, how is it then we can experience different diversity of forms, forms, visible forms and sounds and so on. And here his explanation is that these are aspects of the subjective experience. And this presents the mind-only school's position, where the contents of our perceptions, which appear as external objects, they are in the final analysis extensions or of the stream of consciousness itself. And the idea is that the seed on the consciousness, when it manifests in the form of a subject and object duality. But in the final analysis, what we perceive to be external are in fact aspects of the mind. So this is the view that is being presented by Kamalashilas here.
That's in it. Take it to some corner in Bertones. Tell us also that the children you mourn in the social tower in the same you mourn in the social dog. Tended to the journal, turned up on a same young temper mirror day. Congress Zimbe on solo sober number Zimbe Simni, solo sober number Zimbe Simni. Not so your number now, taste it the money to Calanjo. That diggy. The same number like casual. The woman down Sugari, 17 Danon Sungari. The number now of a now Jenny, any shape of her, the Bayon Shimari, the Lucian, 17 Danon Sungari.
And then we read in page 130, where Kamalashilas writes, in the ultimate sense, the mind too cannot be real. How can the mind that apprehends only the false nature of physical form and so forth, and appear in the various aspects be real? And just as physical forms and so forth are false, since the mind does not exist separately from physical forms and so forth, which are false, it too is false. So here, Kamalashilas is presenting a standpoint that is that transcends the mind-only position, because the mind-only position rejects the reality of the external material world, but takes the world of mental experiences to be substantially real. So Kamalashilas is pointing out that mind too, if you apply the critical analysis, the mind too will turn out to be lacking such substantial existence and substantial reality.
That is someday. Luma Kashish Matanache. Shishan Matu, the Tichitan and Mindrube said, Tiki. Tana Toba Kalanjuru said that Tiki. This year was home with Rosamgi. That Shishan Matu do that? Tompany say, Kore, any turn number, Moni Motore, said that song. That do you not Tony Tamini? Anyway, gas time is an name, Dami Shida, a Tony Shida, and the Hanashi Tony Jujuda, Tony Jobjet, Tony Nishu the Sotoa. Dinalda, Tompany Daga, Cheshire Chani, Cheshan Chani, Tompany Delu, Tony Cheshire Chani, did think a Dami social Moji. Or that did never sha.
So then
we need to do the dinner. Any can chamberlains, any, not the Sudwa, the digital Sudwa.
So we read in stanza, on page 133, Kamalashilas writes in the first paragraph, when the object does not exist, its characteristics cannot exist. So how can they be examined? So he's here pointing out that since the objects, both the person and the phenomena, are turned out to be devoid of real existence, substantially real existence, then the emptiness, which is a characteristic of these phenomena, too will found out to be lacking in substantial existence. So here, Kamalashilas is pointing towards the need to understand the emptiness of emptiness. So, for example, in the sutras, the scriptures, when emptiness is presented, in the briefest form, it is presented in terms of the two selflessnesses, the selflessness of person and that of phenomena. But then you have many different elaborations on this, enumerations. You have fourfold division of emptiness, you have 16-fold division of emptiness, you have 20-fold divisions of emptiness, and so on. So in many of these more extensive divisions of emptiness, there are specific examples where emptiness itself is taken as the subject and then critically analyzed and demonstrated to be devoid of, and demonstrated to be empty. So therefore, emptiness of emptiness is presented. And this is an important point because in the sutras, scriptures, and also in the commentarial text, it is emphasized that one must not grasp at emptiness to be absolute, emptiness to be substantially real.
대체서 시루진 나버지 때 강가서 난저be 뭐고 강가 뭐니 전담을 예벌 믿으면 대체 나버를 믿는 거 띵인증은 주고 최상적인 뭐니 매번이죠 또소 세트기 와다 지금 너된주 중나라라 믿어봐 송대하게 나 믿어봐로 지금 사야 예베체 믿어봐 삼로 지금 사야체 다 아다 배운 악주 처분 나서 믿어봤을 때지 드니질 고구래 스페 그래서 미베베 잡아사다 식네 아니 대코나니 다 통일주산에 다 대코나니도 세지도 미베다 로데니 믿어봐 세야다 될 수거래 순거.
Then we read in on page 133, he writes, in this way, when the person does not firmly apprehend the entity of a thing as ultimately existing, having investigated it with wisdom, the practitioner engages in non-conceptual, single-pointed concentration, and thus the identitylessness of all phenomena is realized. So there is a reference to a state of non-conceptuality, and generally there are many different types of non-conceptual states, and Kamalashilas is pointing out here the highest form of, or the most excellent form of a non-conceptual state is a state of mind where the individual has directly realized emptiness in a non-conceptual state of mind. So we'll now read from Shantidevas' text.
We already
read some stanzas from the beginning earlier. So we move to stanza 13 of the text.
개도 전담 양인데 코근소 대단하 사하기 정말 솔로가 니지기 뒤숭겨래 근데 대고 신부 중국 나라리야 아니 정신양대 사 송도와 최선의 정신용 양대 봐서지 정신양대 사대니 뒤드리지 양대 상담 코어디 아니 건데 니 여치하스게 들어가서 건데 니가로 정신용 양대 봐서 나 들려래 경유도 말이지 정신 요소 양하는 데 봐서야 디 정신 남다지 셔되기야래 양대서야 디 정신 남다 여버지고 계죠 말이 시서 정신 남다 디 아니 루브르베 견디디 가서 우리 그게 세롱레 봉롱레 다 정신이 남다다 디 간데 견디디 아니 녀부께베 또지 좀네 딘데기 다 루브르 남다 연도 된데 다 딘데디니 양대서야래 그래서
So we read in stanza 13 where Shantideva entertains a question which reads, if one could be ultimately emancipated and yet transmigrate conventionally, then even the Buddhas would transmigrate. So what would be the point of the Bodhisattva's way of life? So the point being made here is that an opponent raises a critical point about the usage of the expression natural nirvana. So in the text, for example, the ultimate nature of things is characterized as natural nirvana. This refers to the emptiness. So, and if there is such a thing as a natural nirvana, then what would be the need for such bodhisattva's way of life? Because there wouldn't be any basis to differentiate between unenlightened existence and enlightened existence. So here, to this, Shantideva is responding that this natural nirvana does not indicate that we are already enlightened, but it points to the natural purity of phenomena insofar as their ultimate nature is concerned. However, it is on the basis of eliminating the pollutants which are adventitious, one will then be able to actualize nirvana on the basis of this natural nirvana, which is emptiness. So, so this is how Shantideva responds to this question. So from stanza 15, where we read, when even a mistaken cognition does not exist, by what is an illusion ascertained? So from here, because the middle way thinkers, the Madhyamakas, reject any substantial reality to any phenomena, including the mind. So the mind-only school's standpoint has been critiqued, and therefore from this point onwards, mind-only school, the Yogacharan, are raising various objections, and each of these objections are being addressed in the text by Shantideva. So then we move to stanza 26.
Drupal Shambe, Zimbati, any Chatangiagi, Pungyari. Didn't you make this on Chizatonga Shabbat didn't cover Chamin days. Karga was didn't do it to but Temperton Doshin.
So this is actually the English translation is in stanza 25, where we read, the manner in which something is seen, heard, or cognized is not what is being refuted here. But the conceptualization of its true existence, which is the cause of suffering, is being rejected here. So, and this, for example, we find statements in the Heart Sutra where it says, there is no form, there is no feeling, there are no mental formations and consciousness and so on. So, so when we read these statements of negation, we should not understand it to negate the very existence of these phenomena. So here, this is what Shantideva is pointing out, that what is seen, what is experienced, and what is felt, and these immediate contents of their consciousness, these facts, are not being negated. What is being negated is the substantial existence of these things, because it is the grasping at a substantial existence which is the cause of suffering. And that grasping is being negated here. So that's what Shantideva is pointing out.
Then
the question is, how do we then, how does this conceptualization of true existence, substantial existence, come to cease? How does it get undone? Then this is presented in stanza 32. Yeah, it's stanza 32.
Tungni Pasha Kombeni, Move Pasha Pongdushins, Tango Tenzi Pasha Pongdushins, Jam Major Kombeni, Tian Chine Pongo, Consequence Medoshi, Tajango, Tessingame Dendo, learning Chitanes. Consequence of the learning Sitama Migo Meva to she, then make the Tata Shikse. You do any dancing trouble you say, 시골면 차는 거였어요.
So we read in stanza 32 where Shantideva says that, which explains how this conceptualization of true existence comes to be dismantled. It says that by building up the imprints of emptiness, the imprint of existence will be diminished. And after accustoming oneself to the fact that nothing truly exists, even that will come to diminish. And then he writes, if it is conceived that a phenomena that does not really exist cannot be perceived, then how can a non-entity which is without basis stand before the mind? And then he writes, when neither an entity nor a non-entity remains before the mind, then since there is no other possibility, having no objects, it becomes calm. So what Shantideva was explaining here is that through this process of negation, when one has succeeded in dismantling any objectifiable basis, any ground that one can objectify, then one will kind of become calm, because there will be no grasping. There is no basis for grasping.
고물루루기 자시를 완다 랍지 그렇고 랍지 뜻이지 이보다 라던 요모 사베 탈 라던 요모 남도래 더다들 저번에 동번 이긴가 보니 손에 집으시다. So
this is very similar to a stanza in Nagarjuna's Fundamental Wisdom of the Middle Way, Mula Madhyamaka Karika, where he says that it is through the cessation of karma and afflictions one gains freedom, and karma and afflictions arises from conceptualization, and conceptualization arises from elaborations, and the elaboration are calmed or pacified by means of emptiness.
다양 낭배 그래서 좀 더 나리야 아니 뉴모본을 가사가 담에서 가사가 담에 작바지 동에 또배 드겨래스 아니 시리본을 지담에 공부를 해 진짜 숨기게 그래 다 되려야 고물루루기 아니 좀 전에 공부배 시문 시대에 있잖아요 가다이니 가사주고 최이던 저 가사가 단 시세인 거 알았어. 근데 이 메뉴 안에 시시 풍부증이 뭐 디지털 문제예요. 문제는 양내来来讲的教育chen日常的送不来근데 이 메뉴 안에 최이다면 도고 그래서 유모 봉원은 최이다면 도고 그래 chen 다 써봐지 쇼로가 10주까지 쇼로가 10주네
So So from stanza 40 on, Shantideva is responding to a particular line of thinking within the Buddhist school that uphold, and in fact the middle way school, that uphold the view that in order to gain liberation from cyclic existence, one needs to gain realization of no self of person, and in order to eliminate the subtle obscurations to knowledge, one needs to gain realization of the no self of phenomena. And so here Shantideva is critiquing this position and arguing that even in order to attain liberation from cyclic existence, the realization of emptiness, realization of no self of phenomena is indispensable. And here he's articulating representing Nagarjuna's own view, when Nagarjuna writes in Precious Garland, where he says that so long as there is a grasping at one's aggregates, and there will be the potential for the arising of grasping at I and mine, and from this grasping at I and mine, and then there is the potential for creating new karma, and from karma will arise rebirth. So Shantideva is pointing out here that even in order to attain liberation from cyclic existence, samsara, the realization of no selflessness of phenomena is indispensable. So we read from stanza 40 when he says, liberation comes from understanding the truths. So what is the point of perceiving emptiness? So from this point on, Shantidevas was responding to that question. Then we move on to stanza 52.
Mongpa tenzin ki wangi dunge semjen ki tuando kaso ta drola chakwa kunchanze suwana shingi drola chakwa kwane samshin siba sunya tedana gyondongchina sibal min suwana shingi sibe genki mabwa dinzi zhiyonya di dunyi doba jeburi sta dunyi da resha 동이 더 저거래. 가르쳤나? 동이 더 왕게 제주 선전나 소원이지. 동이 더니 동에 타전이 그 통일지잖아요. 닝지 셔부셔부셔부지 해지. 닝지 셔부셔부지 깨야게. 깨 셔부셔부지도 와. 라고 괜찮은 상황이 있나? 자, 또 동이 수도 더 닝지 셔부게 저도 야 말게. 간다 동이 더게 깨기 아니 좀 새로운 거 지금 뭐셔터. 지금 뭐셔터 왕게 동에 새로운 거 동네 세루 인기라 동네라 아니 가서 대화는 지니다 동네 어디들라就是닝지기야지 존재 심수도 봐 근데 이르산에 대 닝지기야에 좋아지 닝지대 상신도 시버스냐시 시버스나야 시베 깽이 막고 지금 제가 디르 상으로 돈이 더 나지.
So in stanza 52 we read, remaining in the cycle of existence for the sake of those suffering due to delusion is achieved through freedom from attachment and fear. That is the fruit of emptiness. So what Shantidevas is explaining here is that for those Bodhisattvas who are able to remain in samsaric existence out of their compassionate concern for other sentient beings, that courage and then that ability too is a result and fruit of realization of emptiness. And this echoes a line that is found in Nagarjuna's commentary on the awakening mind, Bodhicitta Vivarana, where Nagarjuna says that when the practitioner gains a deep understanding of emptiness, then truly kind of a spontaneous compassion will arise for the other sentient beings, in the form of almost like attachment. So of course, Nagarjuna is not saying that just because one realizes emptiness, compassion will automatically arise, but rather when the conditions are there, then one's realization of emptiness can act as a powerful impetus for giving rise to compassion, because the realization of emptiness will bring about understanding in the person that suffering, and there is a possibility of an end to suffering. So when you recognize the possibility of a cessation of suffering, then your sense of compassion for the beings who continue to be caught up in a cycle of suffering and grasping at suffering to be a form of happiness, then your compassion for these beings, when you recognize that there is a possibility of an end to that suffering, compassion is going to be much stronger. So this is what Shantidevas is pointing out here.
Just one. That is what the Tinduni Jewin, Mutun, the Shoroga Yisuntiki, that Tuni Tobe, Kovatsundua. That's not Tomani should see when it happened. Tender Tasomers of Tomani in the commercial. Yomushi, Mimium Tomani, new subject of the tennis on Mijis. That they should the Nojubuti. Cat Tanga Yona and General Jiguna, turning Gaia Jibu, Sushi, that Yamares, that dark Yana, Nigure, that is an Nigu, that turned up a Yana, that turned up only Yana, 그 유딩의 주고를 유딩의 주요는 자는 니고를 다 죄다스 소다 자신 다마이 다녀주고 참마이 다 시선에만 다 딱들 자니 우리 지체하나 손 너시지 손도와.
So in these subsequent two more stanzas, three more stanzas, Shantideva explains, in a sense, the benefits and fruits of gaining realization of emptiness. And then stanza 56 onwards, then Shantideva presents a series of contemplation on, the analysis on searching for the essence of self. And the point being made here is that if self exists in the manner in which we perceive it to exist, possessing intrinsic existence, inherent existence, then when we search for it within the constituents of our body and mind, it should be findable. But how, so Shantideva is saying now look for it. So he writes, if there was something called I, fear would come from anywhere. If there is no I, whose fear will there be? Teeth, hair, nails are not I, nor am I bone, blood, mucus, and so on. So here he's presenting exactly the same line of analysis that Nagarjuna presents in his precious garland when he talks about the person is neither the earth element, the water element, fire element, and so on. So this presents the establishment of the selflessness of person. So from stanza 59 onwards, specific views of the classical non-Buddhist positions on self are being negated, refuted.
가셔지기 디수도가 다 다사야 되는 매나 아니 디도 제법보다 디도 영어보 아니 이거 말봐 스스로는 돼 말했어 우마베 다매 세안디 아니 다 원이지 못 주고 쓰게 다 원이지 못 주고 써야 좀세 쏘데 다 담에 주야게 좀세 쏘디 오불루기 댄신데버 중앙가 되는 동건이도 셴 송어를 마도 짠에 많이 버디 동건이를 송겨 말이 댄신데버 중앙 강이 버디 셴라 라레버 셴라 뜨버 셴라 땀버 저 딘데 이르잖아요 셴라 뜨버다 마드버니 버디 겨하는 망가리 풍수가 야마리 야나 뜨는 도주리 야나 마드버 도주리 뜨는 도주리 라트에 이르잖아요 마드베 모니기 좀 코랑 뭐네 떠바면 어쩔 때 버지 다 내버지 다 쳐줘 자 떠버 좀제도 쳐디 마드베 정신 차와시 두인도 자네 그 떠베 정신이 버지 샤이고도 주초는 샤이고도 근데 인도 자네 다때 강사 모니기 좀 야마를 쓰고 얼마도 강사 매발을 쓰고 말이지 텔레스고 풍수고 쉬어지 돼 모니기 좀 야마를 쓰고 얼마도 매발을 쓰고 말이지.
So in stanza 70 onwards, Shantideva is actually clarifying what is being negated in the context of no self, presentation of no self, and he is explaining that in the course of presenting the understanding of no self, it is not person, the reality of the person that is being negated, but it is the substantial reality of person that is being negated. It is the independent existence of person that is being negated. So the question is raised here, without the self, the relationship between an action and its result is not possible. For if the agent of an action has perished, who will have the result? So these questions are raised, and so Shantideva is explaining that it is not that the person itself is being negated, rejected. It is the inherent existence of the person that is being rejected. So here, so the meaning of emptiness is really, as explained before, emptiness, the meaning of emptiness is that the meaning of emptiness of a person is the emptiness, absence of the independent existence of the person. So, as explained by Nagarjuna in his Fundamental Wisdom of the Middle Way, where he says that that which is dependently originated, that I describe to be empty, and this too is dependently designated, and this is the true middle way. So there, the meaning of emptiness has been explained in terms of dependent origination. So therefore, when Nagarjuna presents emptiness, he is not talking about mere unfindability of things when you search for them. Therefore, in fact, the emptiness is presented on the basis of things and events as being dependently originated. And because all phenomena are dependently originated, and they are devoid of a nature that makes them independent, because dependent and independent are mutually exclusive, and there is no third possibility. They are directly contrary to each other, and there is no third possibility. And since phenomena are dependent, that precludes them from being independent, and so this absence of independence of phenomena is their ultimate nature. So it is in this way that dependent nature of phenomena is used as a rationale or the premise for establishing the emptiness of independent existence. And then we will read stanza similarly.
타녀도 여봐도 몽배 샤바다 말이지 이네 몽보 머리배 레댕에게 타녀배 쉐뱅을 항상 다 드리지를 가래스.
So similarly, another question is raised on in stanza 75, when the text reads, "If no sentient beings exists, for whom is there compassion?" And then the response Shantideva gives is that for one who is imagined through delusion, which is accepted for the sake of the task. So although Shantideva is not suggesting here that the existence of sentient beings is a mere illusion, but rather Shantideva is explaining that the existence of sentient beings is posited on the conventional level of reality, which is perceptible to sentient beings whose mind is deluded by ignorance.
두주 평안에 추이담이다는 보고 그래. 다 안덕급데 추이담이다는 표해야 돼. 류 전반이샤, 소화 전반이샤, 심 전반이샤, 최 전반이샤. 시부디 다 전반이샤 시디 랑된 상담이 니주루야 체. 현대의 상담이 니주루야 체. 다데네 전반이샤 시 땡기 슈니 상담이잖아요. 추이담이다는 표해야. 디감도 되게.
So then from stanza 78 onwards of the English translation, the presentation of the selflessness of phenomena is explained. And here, so, and this is presented within the framework of meditation on the four foundations of mindfulness. Generally speaking, the four foundations of mindfulness, when it is applied with respect to one's own personal experience of suffering, then the practices of the four foundations of mindfulness lead to the realization of true renunciation. And when you apply the meditation to other sentient beings, then it leads to the arising of compassion. But here, the four foundations of mindfulness framework is used to meditate upon the emptiness of all phenomena.
단전에만 샴데 갸도 좀이 뒤 나디 리시 직전 무슨 기 균은 선주 통하지 그래서 그 교를 저 도시 생활 된지기 규민이 경험 거 봐야 갸도 추수를 뒤
갸도 추수를 뒤 갸도 주면 투임
그래
그래서 갸다
도다들다 리신 직전 무슨 기 균은 선주 통이 빼면 동부 소인이 규예에 개베지
less. So this is on page, stanza 116 of the English text, which reads, people observe every cause through direct perception, since the components of a lotus, such as the stalk and so forth, are produced by a variety of causes. So this is presenting the diamond slivers argument, reasoning.
내가 지도 돼. 그는 지금 무슨 게 그는 통인세. 빼면 동부 소예니 규예에 개베지. 내가 심도 안돼. 규이 관계 제시는 나기 규이 니를 소스. 지실 규이 제게는 나기 규이 투 니래. 신. 뜻이. 디샴데 당내디 가도 조심지. 안다 원주로 주임부터 버가니 디수고데 런루기 셰바셰자 레게당 토미디도 레레 대외 것이 개면 사지 상다도와 디티다 도와
So here
this is 나한테 디친 거다 지금 가서게 좋아 지금 메달을 주시도 서버 지금 세미 펜부도 줘야 돼 당연히 생각하는 샘된게 변는 류기 차로도 되지 뭔가지 코르코레 나기 뒤 니레소 세야 뒤로는 조금 해라스 딱 소화디도 좋아 봐 소화디도 샤윤도 디난데 토미 디도 레레 디야시사 something already.
So here this is making an important point in the text here. We read in stanza 116 when Shantideva writes, people observe everyday cause through direct perception, since the components of a lotus, such as the stalk and so forth, are produced by a variety of causes. And then a question is raised, what makes the variety of causes? And then the response is given, a preceding variety of causes. And then another question is raised, how can a cause give an effect? And then the response is, because of the power of preceding causes. So in this stanza, so, we can see here that Shantideva is presenting a causal process which is natural, which is kind of almost in the manner of evolution. And then, so later in stanza 122, then Shantideva writes, happiness and suffering are the results of action. Say then, what did he create? If the cause has no beginning, how can its effect have a beginning? So here, I personally feel that Shantideva is making a distinction between two levels of causation. One is the mere natural process of causation. So as we discussed yesterday, so with respect to the flower, there may be a level of causal processes which has nothing to do with karma. And then in stanza 122, he brings in the concept of causation with respect to experience of happiness and suffering. So when a sentient being's experience of happiness and suffering comes into the picture, then the karmic processes comes into the picture.
다디 쇼제 다디와 양 무지고 되어 가야지 마치 되는 참아도 세명 남샤디 이 마샤 너무 starshaya 없나? 그것이 관계 녀와 통도 다디디 덴직된지 순거 더 유상지 뭐지? 다지는 뭐 여러 교벌을 시서기 유미진 곡된지 수. 예시 여러 개면데 메시 매번 개와 민신 동의도 주면 없어요.就是 디만 짜이 뭐다.
And then we read from the point where Shantidevas is presenting analysis of the phenomena from the point of view of its effect, which is and presenting the same argument that Nagarjuna presents in the 70 stanzas.
뭐부 여벌 교벌을 교육을 지시. 언제 전에 맨날 교육을 지시. 저 자다 교육정 뭐부 매번 교도매. 사디. 던지기 던지 숨을 쉬우대.
알아들으셔.
이 무슨?
데려오대다. 계십시오.
둘러대. 시dengi dedi. Tada 둘러대.
다르바.
숨쉬기도. 랑더라고. 됐어. 좀비 둘러대 땡기. 이제 어디.
So it's from 145, where we read, for something that already exists, what need is there for a cause? And if something does not exist, what is the need for a cause? So this is presenting another line of reasoning which approaches the phenomena from the point of view of its effect. And this is the same line of argument found in the same line of reasoning found in the 70 stanzas of Nagarjuna.
단지네 tamashing ne angde negul tadash diche diri jado sugu romilum tawudi namperjan shishinda stadi demi dusare shude di shude romilum tawudi namperjan shishinda 양에도 남한테 봐 딘도네 켜버면 있으면
So then it's in stanza 150 where Shantideva writes, states of existence are like dreams. Upon analysis, they are similar to plantain trees. In reality, there is no difference between those who have attained nirvana and those who have not. So this is presenting the understanding of the inseparability or indistinguishability between samsara and nirvana. So from stanza 151 onwards, Shantideva explains that once you have meditated upon emptiness, then a perspective upon phenomena in the manner of illusion-like character arises. Therefore, in your mind, the kind of strong grasping towards things which previously ordinary people tend to have will not arise in us. So we'll read then the final stanza of this chapter, which reads, when shall I respectfully teach emptiness and the accumulation of merit in terms of conventional truth and without reification to those whose views are reified? So with that, the reading of the 9th chapter is complete.
Yeah. That is what they do. So 저의 동에 강진으로 대균 달라 민주 전주 선배 계속 저 달라 저
So towards the end of the 10th chapter, the chapter on dedication, we read, this is on page 144, we read the very important stanza. This is stanza 55, where we read, "For as long as space endures, and for as long as the world lasts, may I live dispelling the miseries of the world." And whatever suffering there is for the world, may it all ripen upon me. May the world find happiness through all the virtues of the Bodhisattvas. May the teaching that is the sole medicine for the suffering of the world and the source of all prosperity and joy remain for a long time, accompanied by riches and honor. I bow to Manju Ghosha, through whose grace my mind turns to virtue. I salute my spiritual friend, through whose kindness it becomes stronger. So we now return to Kamalashilas' text.
다 되기 간다. 제대로 강사도 출을 다음에 답이 나도는 로정문다. 다 나도는 로시. 그치. 다 대대로 동번이 있다는 펀네. 아니 미국 동번이 있지. 방에 되겠지. 유리선에 다 되게 가는 로 팬이 줘야지. 다 도시니 아니 가서 그게 째더기 장배 루시장에 다 대화해야지. 이니 윤두산에 에노 돈이를 미국 지도도 방로 루시 리머래. 다 지단도 해서 방동에 누구면로 신내도 되는 소소도 싫어 잡아셔야 뒤견배 대도 대화해야지. 방동에 방동게 난 때네 방동 미국 다 지도를 미쳐. 아니 돈이 뭐야 되래. 또 세윤도 다 당연 퇴진 시사잖아. 전주서도 쌤 조금만 뭐 깨니 연배 그돌라 다 랑규라 퇴진 사람 사디 깨버리. 다대 5분 넘어이나 대권의 돈이 있다고 검세 돈이 있다고 내가 배니 되지 저기야리다. 다 되면아야 아니 자주 쌤 깨살에 제일 친구 잡아라 넣어야게 이 3대인데 싫어를 넣어 뒤들 넣어야 제일이잖아. 다 돈이라 아니 가서 우리 그게 돈이 또 되네 돈이는 그 군주토미르잖아요. 잘람사차. 다 되네 이 림베게 다동 돈이를 쌓나 장네. 돈이를 다 돈이로 공부되니 돈이를 쌓나 토이르잖아요. 아니 돈이 무슨 돈이르잖아요. 통람사를 깨버려. 사탕의 시기를 깨버려. 통방 다 방사 가야로 오지 방병 고된 뭐마다 뒤도 타왔다. 다 되네 무튼이 아니 사고 림지 받드네 아니 다 사든베 주스는 되게 사게베 고드스는 되게 이 윤주방이야래. 근데 다섯순 내걸이야. 다섯순 내걸이야. 시디냐 못돼. 다 놓으세니. 아니 사주 드네 남지 타야. 다 대강이야. 이 안내 배경니 다 센터 체니 참sem디 모두 줘야 답시 다시 저런 그냥 이내리 나 믿어고 장이 이내리 다 왔대 되게 타네. 검님만 남기스. 기도는 사실 정도가 검님만 남기 지득거지 자진다. 저진도 순거래. 검님만 남기 믿어고 좀 코네 땡네 뉴메베서 쳐들쳐버리스. 배선도 백감네 아니 룽근난저를 때네 아니 왜서 쳐도 넘겨야래. 콜로도 맞다. 지 가서 주고디 가다 되죠다. 아니 개발도 하셔서 지도 그도네 아니 저런 technically 냠는 게 담시 저런 소래. 다 가다 아니 대화침고 동 대신 다 대신 그것이 냠는 또 전에 뒤되네. 그래서 시도 치게 하래. 다들 좀 그래. 나 되게 나라미가 또 단데. 다 뒤는 배겨. 동시에 아니 시도 차시 차요. 뭐지냐 못되니. 아니 뭐 좀 상년에 가져야나. 내 있고 봐. 사디. 아니 구시등이 아니 나는 심기반 현진실 양다적으로 전좀 넣어야 돼. 뒤주다 그거 용수 주고 사야 돼. 그거 용주 수 있어야 돼.
As explained before, once you have cultivated a deeper understanding of emptiness, and then you choose that as the object of your meditation, and so when you are able to, because of your tranquil abiding, quality of tranquil abiding, when you are able to, focus your mind in a settled manner on that object, which is emptiness that you have established, then as a result of this, one will be able to engender within oneself a physical and mental pliancy, which then give rise to a kind of a permeating feeling, a sense of bliss. And at that point, one has attained special insight or insight focused on emptiness. And so the mode of procedure is the following. First, the practitioner need to cultivate the quality of tranquil abiding as the basis of the stability of the mind, and then of course, since we are talking about a Mahayana practitioner, it is important to cultivate the awakening mind, generate awakening mind. And the instance the person has generated a spontaneous awakening mind, totally non-simulated, naturally arising awakening mind, at that point, the person has entered the first path, the path of accumulation. And if the person, practitioner, is someone with a superior faculty, such a practitioner would already have established the understanding of emptiness prior to gaining realization of bodhicitta. But even one hasn't gone through this, once you have attained bodhicitta and entered the first path of accumulation, then the Bodhisattva must implement the Bodhisattva practices which involve engaging in the practice of the six perfections, which would involve a cultivation of concentration and wisdom of emptiness. So in this way, one will be able to then utilize the mental stability attained through tranquil abiding, and on that basis apply the analysis on understanding emptiness. And when you, at that point, gain a meditatively derived realization of emptiness, at that point one has reached the second path, which is the path of preparation, and still on the basis of continued meditation on emptiness and deepening of the familiarity, when the individual practitioner arrives at a point where the realization of emptiness moves on to a state of total direct experience, non-conceptual, at that point the person has reached the third path, which is the path of seeing, and at that point one also attains the true cessation, nirodha, true cessation, and also at that point one has attained the first level of Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva Bhumi, and then one progressively moves through the other levels of the Bodhisattva, the second, third, and so forth. And when you reach the 8th level of Bodhisattva Bhumi, then at that point one will also be able to eliminate from its root all the afflictions, from their root all the afflictions, and then from the 8th level onwards, which are referred to as the perfected levels of the Bodhisattva, one will then be able to directly apply antidote against the subtle obscurations to knowledge, and in this way progressively move on to the remaining levels of the 10 Bodhisattva Bhumis. And then this path, at that point, one needs to also complement one's practice with practices from the Vajrayana teachings, which would involve utilization of the subtlemost level of mind, the innate mind of clear light. And and in order to induce this state of innate mind of clear light, there are many different approaches. For example, the Gelug master, Kirum Nosang Gyaltso, explains that, he says that those representing the earlier Tibetan lineages, in which here he is talking particularly about Nyingmapa's and Kagyupa approach of Dzogchen and Kagyupa approach of Mahamudra. Noksang Gyatso says that those who are from those approaches that represents the earlier lineages employ the method of non-conceptual meditation alone to induce the subtle mind of clear light. And then he says that, however, the method from the Guhyasamaja Tantra involve the utilization of the prana, the vayu within the channel, the energy channels, and the mother tantras such as Chakrasamvara Tantra, Heruka or Chakrasamvara Tantra or Hevajra Tantra. These practices, these methods involve primarily inducing states of great bliss, and in this way the subtle mind of clear light is made awake, kind of manifest within the practitioner. So so using whatever of the methods the one may, one then makes the subtle mind of clear light manifest, and on that level applies antidotes against the subtlemost aspects of the obscuration to knowledge, and finally culminate in the attainment of Buddhahood that we spoke about earlier as being the embodiment of the 3 or 4 Buddhakayas, and then attain full awakening. And that's also the point when our ultimate aspiration, which we cultivated at the very beginning when we generated the awakening mind, because the awakening mind has been defined as characterized by 2 aspirations: aspiration for bringing about others' welfare and aspiration to attain Buddhahood for that sake. So at that point, then our aspiration that we had made has finally come to total fruition. So in the scriptures, sutras, the arahats are sometimes referred to as those who have accomplished their task. So here too, from the Mahayana practitioner's point of view, the fully enlightened ones are someone who have done their tasks.
다 주주의 Kamalashilas 숭리자로기 닝구들이 제자 과바 닝구셰비 닝구다 디버.
So the ultimate purpose of the composition of both Kamalashilas text and Shantidevas text is the attainment of that state.
뭐야? 다시로니 문난게 대하타 가데 파랑가데 파라삼거든 부대서 사트충거다.
So at that point, then the true meaning of the mantra in the Heart Sutra, Tatyatha, Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate, Bodhe Swa, would have finally become real.
Now, as a tradition, I read Shantidevas, the beginning few words from the Shantidevas book. 야가게도 bodhisattva 아야 자야 아와다라 벽에 주스 줘봐가지고 산에서 답절로 자살로 디시 최규공은 세잖아 차유고로 그게 차세대 디시 세지 동을 주고는 롱신도 되는 죄를 차. So now completed. Now last I think 2 weeks in the United States. Now 2 major lecture on Buddhism. So I'm very happy. So I want to thank the audience here and also the Lehigh University.
Lehigh, Lehigh in Pennsylvania.
So in both cases, you see, the audience are really very, very attentively, you see, listen. Maybe in some remote area, maybe some sleeping, maybe. Otherwise, you see here, no one. So I very much appreciate. Thank you. So this is firstly, I consider a little contribution for deeper understanding about Buddha Dharma. And then, through that way, contribution for promotion of religious harmony. And then also, through that way, promotion of human value. So, thank you very much. And then all those concerned organizers, including many volunteers, work very hard. So I very much appreciate all our work for actually all our work for directly or indirectly for promotion of human happiness. So all people, or concerned people, now really accumulated, make some accumulation. So now important is dedicate. That's all. So, okay. Again, see you next time. So till then, I myself also every day trying to practice these things as much as I can. So I will continue. And those people who actually genuine sort of interest, and please practice. That's important. Just mere knowledge will not much help. Practice, implement, transformation here or here. Then you really get actual practical benefit. Thank you. Goodbye.
Nam
Gesha Chive. Gesha Shariamare. Situban Kiyama. Kimba. Sunny. Shantisha. Good? No. Don't know Thank you. 진징 연대 가장 진징이 견데 현진징이 연대 통하면도 다디 심전의 염도를 봐. 다디 현실을 지기지 않네. 지혜를 진규 현심전의 차도송. 도스전에 아니 다 지 토할 때네 차도 거면 냠을 때네 대심 거면 멤버 때네 아니 가래다 그게 바다 통주지야 서로 나 되게 미고지 하지 대로 편부도 와.
So from stanza 140 on, presents a certain contemplations and thought processes that is very unique to the method of training one's mind according to Shantidevas' text here. And the practices involve imagining one's own self, kind of old self, as the embodiment of self-cherishing that only cares about its own welfare and is totally oblivious to the welfare of the other sentient beings. So we set that old self aside on one side, and then we imagine another part of ourself, a self that is capable of seeing the benefits of thought cherishing others and the disadvantages of the thoughts that cherishes one's own welfare alone. And therefore, we set aside this self, which on the basis of seeing these differences, then emphasizes the welfare of other sentient beings and sides more with the other sentient beings for whose sake you are trying to seek their welfare. And then one kind of compares one's thoughts in relation to these and tries to go through kind of a thought experiments, as it were, where you imagine, kind of competing with this old self and imagining if it to be superior, then you try to cultivate a sense of envy and competitiveness. Envy and jealousy. If it is deemed to be equal, then you cultivate a thought of competitiveness. and if it is deemed to be inferior, then you tend to look down upon it, kind of in a disparaging manner. So in this way, you try to train your mind, and it can be, very effective. So this is an approach that is very unique to Shantidevas' text.
Tadine, the shu, sholoka, data no to no shi, sholoka chi, dag no to dagsha cha shen. Yache, tadine, di data tamjo to call dollar never che, yi gu rang dun chen do ba gaba chang men dai ju chang, she son ne, da du zibali ya, pan jambu go ne, da rang jebel zibi jinzin digi, tu tatapodo, jebel rang jebel re di, ngodo yong ya di, rang da, pung ya chi, da yong da ya, di di, jambu go ne, ba dama imari. Jambu go ne, da zui so chi.
So then in stanza 154, which is on page 109, we're talking about the English translation, where we read, "We should deprive him of happiness and always yoke him to our anguish." So then, so from the second part of that stanza onwards, Shantideva is presenting a series of, again, thought processes where you are applying a much more gentler approach to this old self, that is the embodiment of self-cherishing, pointing out to this old self that although what you truly wish for is your own welfare, but you have not been able to succeed in this. So in this way, applying a much more gentler approach, one is again addressing the self-cherishing attitude. So from this second part of that stanza, we read, "We all have been afflicted in the cycle of existence hundreds of times by him," talking about the self-cherishing attitude. "Countless eons have passed away while you sought your own benefit. With this great toil, you have gained only suffering," and so on.
Tadine, sholoka jata tuju.
And then we move to stanza 168.
Denimata, Zumugone, da Zubugone, da Ranjin Tabake, Azore. Gunshia. Da, when the tether Damjan, Simju tether, Michina, Killer never Gundembe, Kuni Saja Chow set. Kyoko, Karla, when you to the Shane. 내통 타교 강론으로 되겠죠. 근심자 셔서 또 주무관에 따라 진실 받쳐주셔야 돼요.
So from stanza 168 where we read, "O mind, if you do not do this even when you are being told, then I shall subjugate you alone, for all faults dwell in you." So from this point onwards, now the text is employing a much more harsher approach and reprimanding the self-cherishing embodiment, the embodiment of the self-cherishing thought, the self, and saying that if you are not going to heed to what I have instructed to advise you, then I'm going to do such and such. So we read, for example, in the text, "Where will you go? I can see you, and I shall annihilate all your vanities. That was another earlier time when I was ruined by you. Now give up this hope. Still I have my own self-interest. Unconcerned as you are with much distress, I have sold you to others." So in this manner, the text then presents a series of thoughts where you are employing a much more harsher approach against the embodiment of self-cherishment.
That's the issue with the Gather Dunju, Tuni. Tether Kyogi, Retashi, Kojimbe, Yurin Tuk, Tani, Kernum, Chanshedi, Kyogi Rangdun, Sambusham. Tezi, Tani, Gandana, Rangla Dagi, Garmicha. Tezi, Tani, Sundana, Shanda, Dadu, Son, Chas. That dimension, Lul Chagwe Nimi, Jig Tamyo.
So then we read in stanza 171 and 72 the following. Stanza 172 and 73, the following. "Handing me over in that way many times, you have tormented me for a long time. And remembering those grudges, I shall destroy you," talking about the self-cherishment, the servant of your own self-interest. If you are pleased with yourself, you should take no pleasure in yourself. If you need protection, it is inappropriate to protect yourself. And then, so the translation is slightly different. So here it reads, if you wish your own pleasure, so this is in the annotation 325, which is closer to the Tibetan text. If you wish for your own pleasure, you should not take pleasure in yourself. If you wish to protect yourself, you should always protect others. And then from stanza 174 onwards, then Shantideva is presenting once again a series of thought processes aimed at dealing specifically with clinging and attachment.
yata. 다심지 다시냠지 다심지 보더기 침부지 다이트브체.
So we already covered the section from Shantideva's text during the generation of mind awakening mind, the section that deals with exchanging and equalizing of self and others.
다지네 맨서 다도 채와당사 수고 수서 솔로가 자도 쉽죠. 디멘션에 아니 준주랑 그 투모모임 되지래. 야지 그게 로장단지. 다들이야. 아니 급제나 다 랑진진게 다 랑진진 당돌랜댕에 현진진을 전화权来吧.真这个到大的 파 다대당 다야
to one's body.
다전에 자도 주주人같아 말이 자도 주주人말이 자도 그러고다 주주르셔 자도 주주야
So we move then to 185.
대집에 쨈베 쳤어 다게 캐베 제니데 다르바 다 뒤다다 봐도 동해 면도도 대원다바 통화면에 예어로다 동해 면도도 대원도 통화면에 예어 타리야 동해 세야다 대원르비야게 탑시 또 소스 삼는 날 예들 다 약셔디 완전 제대로 또 그들 들어 계속 놓아 샤샤 밀대비네 또 통주 전문이 밑 통주 주주되가 디디 상월로 랑도 되버다 동해면도 시다래 상월 매주시고 계속 누가 짜시면서 따스게 누가 미국다스게 누가 자 진짜 인도산 딱 가를 내버렸으나 나도 상월로 대원 되버 동해면도 시다래 이네 아주 집에 잡아 랑 집은 집에 상황도 다네 그도 들려 못 좋다 진짜 이번 인도산에 단에 캐베 제수 닉데스 단에 다게 캐베 제수 닉데스 캐바 저주 삼바 탑시기다 냠링이 내 등에 냠링이 내 냠신나게 대다게 제수 장대 바유 담는 전세네 니도 먹고 넣어버려 개세 투지처럼 따랐어 개세 투지처럼 루루 yap사로 써봐 따와 지금 오늘 전에 파고기 오늘 지금 계셔 당봐 진짜로는 제일 용야들이 투근 남주 셴뱅 학습 테이트로 되는 요 맞다 시행할 수도 와. 자, 늦지기 타네 투 라나 소수이네 투 여면 투 띵네 침등이지 다 여자 세버. 자, 네이버 인도산에 계속 투지처럼다 리퀘스트는 숙사돼. 인제 차버만 배는 단이 다게 동네 남탈 친. 랑가를 두 샤샤에 동네 줘야 믿어와. 동네 사야 믿어와. 자, 이제 인도산에 대집어 세르신 로벨랑에 심랜데 양다 밀로 따버려 다게 냠버 샤버 차. 유자버서 좋다.
So we read from stanza 185, which reads in the following. So enough of childish conduct. And this is very true. If we examine ourselves, we all know that deep down, each of us have always endeavored to seek the fulfillment of our basic aspiration to be happy and to overcome suffering. And it is on the basis of this motivation we live our entire life. And each of us, all 6 billion human beings on this planet, each of us in our own way is trying all our best to try to fulfill this aspiration. But up until now, if we look around, there isn't anyone that we can really truly emulate as having succeeded in this really aspiration. And we can look at ourselves what the fate of our current situation is, and where we have gotten as a result of pursuing endlessly the same kind of same old way of trying to fulfill this basic aspiration. Therefore, Shantideva writes, recalling the teaching on heedfulness and warding off drowsiness and lethargy, I shall follow the wise. So wise here refers to great masters of the past, such as Nagarjuna and so on, who have presented a different way of proceeding in trying to fulfill this basic aspiration to attain happiness. And the way in which these great masters have done is employing or applying both the faculty of intelligence and wisdom on the one hand, and a truly altruistic intention, a compassionate and altruistic intention on the other. And in this way, they have pursued the welfare of other sentient beings, so that even on the personal level, and these masters can feel a tremendous sense of satisfaction and sense of fulfillment, because, and at least they can feel that there is no need for remorse or regret, because they have done all they can. So, and these are the way of the wise, So Shantideva is suggesting that, I shall follow the way of the wise. And then we read in stanza 186, which is actually in the footnote, 329, where Shantideva writes, like the compassionate children of the conquerors, I shall endure the rigors of righteousness. If I do not constantly strive day and night, when will my suffering ever come to an end? And this is very true, because the point Shantideva is making is that if we are serious about bringing suffering to an end, we need to apply effort and do something about it. Suffering cannot just come to an end, by itself. And then he writes, therefore, so this is stanza 187, therefore, withdrawing the mind from evil ways, I shall always concentrate it on its own meditative object to eliminate obscurations. So with that, the reading of the 8th chapter is complete.
So this chapter is most important part of the Shantidevas book. Very important. So as a daily practice, at the beginning, I think read the first chapter about the benefit out of altruism. Then, perhaps, I think, the 6th chapter and 8th chapter, read and contemplate, and some feeling develop. Then the 2nd chapter, the 8 limbs, as we done this morning. And then Chinchu Simba Tabalayata. Yan Tabalang Benaya, Membesim Kia, Susuta, Chotan Chana, and the outside.
So as we did this morning, then I'll move on to the chapter 2 and 3, where we had the practice of the 7 limbs. And then on the basis of that, if we generate the awakening mind and recite those sections that deals with taking the Bodhisattva vows. So if you approach Shantideva's text in this order, in this manner, it would be very beneficial.
Yeah.
So now we will read from Kamalashilas' text.
Chitan Devashino mi wala sim rangwado yoba te shine zhuwa yinba rikwa chao se. Nisun. Tene shine zhuna langdong gombara chade. Nisun.